Hey guys, it's Simby, and today we are filming something a little bit different. 1 week ago, I would have had no idea that this would be happening, and if you would have told me a week ago that I would be trying to decide where I'm gonna be streaming next, I would have been so confused and would have been just responding like, but I'm on Mixer, I love Mixer, like what do you mean? Simba knows that we're about to be discussing some things about where we're going next today and how we get started, and we are just going to kind of come up with some questions and answers that I think you guys would be wondering. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoy this video, and I hope you guys are hanging in there if you guys are experiencing this as well. This is not something that anybody wants to go through, losing their platform, losing their home essentially, and we will all figure it out together. So I'm going to kind of tell you guys my backstory of how I started streaming, how I grew up gaming, and what kind of led me to Mixer over other platforms. It's kind of a long story, but I think it's very important for me to tell everybody because I understand that not everybody knows me from Mixer. Maybe you're gonna find me from this video, maybe from the title or the thumbnail. So I definitely want to explain as much as I can and kind of give you guys the backstory before I tell you my next plans. And yeah. Okay, so we're gonna start from the very beginning. When I was younger, I grew up in a house with 5 different kids. So there was 6 of us and I was the baby. And my brothers, of course, wanted a Nintendo 64. And that was the first console that I remember having. And I remember like the boys would definitely take over the games all the time, but we would all fight and be like, oh, my turn, and all that jazz. And then after that, my dad built us like a game room, and in there we had a Sega, an Atari, and things like that. And I remember my first game of my own that I convinced my dad to buy me was like a Barbie dress-up game. And you know, you're probably laughing, but I've always been really into like creative games. Now that I think back, like of course I've been into shooters and stuff mainly, but I've always been into like dressing up or things like that, creating and stuff like that. My dad got me a Game Boy Advance SP, and I remember that thing was my favorite. It flipped, it was so dope. And I had a lot of Sims games, Donkey Kong, all that jazz, and I had like so many games. And the best thing was my dad would make me put my phone on the counter at 8 p.m. And okay, I definitely was older than 10. I don't know why I guessed 10. Probably like 16 now that I think about it. But I would be like, oh well, I have my Game Boy Advance, and the coolest thing was it had a night mode. So I would trigger on night mode, and then I would go under the covers and play it like for hours. Sorry dad if you're watching, but that was my favorite. So I would continue from me being 16. I probably around like 14 or 15, I would go to my friend's house and play on their PlayStations or their Xboxes. I did have my own PlayStation. I had the first PlayStation, and I had Spyro, Tony Hawk, like a bunch of games like that. I had tons and tons of games. So I actually did have a PlayStation as well. And then I ended up wanting my own Xbox like really, really bad. And my dad bought me a limited edition Gears of War Xbox. And I was so obsessed, but he wouldn't get me online. So I would try to use it with no online, and then I would receive messages, but I wouldn't be able to message back, and I was so sad. And then he ended up selling my Xbox, so I was especially sad. And then for sure when I was 16, I ended up having scoliosis surgery, which is when your spine is at a curve and it's kind of too late to get a brace to fix, to try to fix the curve. My spine was at 70 degrees and it's supposed to be at 0. So I ended up having scoliosis surgery, and my boyfriend at the time knew that I loved gaming. And at the time my parents had split up and I lived with just my mom. So it wasn't really like a necessity to buy me an Xbox, and we were just living off her income of her job, so that just wasn't gonna happen for me. And so he ended up giving me his Xbox, and that was my boyfriend at the time, who is my husband now. So shout out to my husband for believing in me that maybe, I don't know, maybe it was God telling us, hey, for some reason, you need to give your girlfriend your Xbox. I don't know why, just do it. And now looking back, it's like everything fell into place and worked out. During those times, I was 16 years old. I had to be on bed rest for 6 months. I was out of school during that time, so I did end up having to go back to high school another year, so 5 years. During that time, I just played a lot of COD. I was in a lot of pain. Scoliosis surgery, you have to learn how to walk all over again, learn how to do everything that was once easy all over again. It's like you're a newborn baby. And I just played so much Call of Duty, it wasn't even funny. So a couple of years go down the line, I still play a lot of games. That was like just what I did and what I loved. And I ended up recovering from my scoliosis surgery. I got really into working out. I got engaged, I got married, I moved away from Michigan and I moved to Georgia with my husband. And then we got our own Xbox One that his dad got us for Christmas, and we shared that for a long time. So mainly when Jake would get home from work, he would play. When he was at work, I would play. It was really hard for me to get a job at the time, so I wasn't working. I was literally just gaming. So I kind of wish that I would have gotten into it sooner, but again, I had no idea about streaming. It kind of just fell into place eventually, which I will tell you about shortly here. So one of my main hobbies when I was probably around 20, I got really into working out, and Jake's always loved to be athletic, and he was in football in high school. I was in volleyball. I was in dance for 7 years, starting from when I was in first grade. I did cheerleading, volleyball, track, and I was pretty athletic for a while, and then I kind of also loved gaming and being lazy, so I'm sure we can all relate with that. I got really into working out. I definitely built my strength up. I have a metal rod on my spine for the rest of my life, so I always have to be careful with, posture and things like that, because I mean, things can always go wrong with working out. You always have to have like good posture just in case. So a couple years after that, Jake ends up deploying. I move to South Carolina with my brother, and there I worked at Chipotle full time. I worked about 60 hours a week. I was a manager. I was kind of thrown into management. I wasn't really trained for it, so it was very stressful. And I would basically, during that time that Jake was deployed, I was working a lot and also playing games. 7 or 8 months later, Jake gets home from deployment. I move back, and then I get back into our regular lifestyle. So working out, playing games, and we actually got another Xbox, and I had my own, so I could feed my own addiction to gaming, and I really, really wanted that. I wanted my own Xbox. So I ended up transferring from the Chipotle there to this Chipotle in my city now, and I was working there. I was doing pretty well for a while. They were promising me to retrain me and to see how things go here, and if we can basically reteach me everything that I should have learned at my past Chipotle. So as I said, we loved working out, and we would work out together, and sooner than you know it, I was getting back muscles. I was getting some muscles when I flexed. It was like kind of crazy looking in the mirror, and I felt very confident and I felt strong, and I was hitting more weight every week, and it was really awesome. And then all of a sudden, I pulled a muscle in my back, and I got a really large lump, and it was causing me a lot of pain. And I was scared because I didn't know what it was. Any kind of lump is very scary, and every time I would be at work and like leaning over and being quick with things, it would just hurt so bad. So I ended up taking a break from work for a little bit to figure out what it was, and I went to the hospital, and they basically said it was a muscle spasm. So from then on, the doctor told me that I shouldn't work or work out. I should take a break from that. And with that, I was like, well, what should I do now? And obviously gaming was my passion, my other passion, what I love to do. So I remember that Jake received a webcam that was USB that somebody didn't use when they were deployed. and I could just plug it into my Xbox. So we ordered a cheap chair from Google. I think it was like 40 or 50 bucks. And it actually came in the day that I got home from the hospital. So we built it real quick and actually did my first stream that day that I found out like what was wrong with me. And I just did like maybe an hour or two stream straight from my Xbox, and that's how it started. I was not organized at first. I kind of just went live whenever, but there was something different about it. Like, it was so exciting and it was so cool just seeing like people come and chat and want to interact with me. And I've always been very social when it comes to gaming. I'm a like huge social gamer. I am not big on playing games on myself. Well, I wasn't at all. I love online multiplayer and kind of just like BSing with people online, meeting new people, and even sometimes, you know, people aren't the nicest to girls online, especially, I don't know, it's like a weird thing with people. Oh, you're fat. Oh, you sound hot. You're probably fat. You're probably this. You're probably that. You know, I've definitely heard it all. And especially like, you know, streaming for 2 years now, I've heard some things, but it's kind of crazy thinking back to when I didn't stream, and what I would hear then is different when people are, you know, rude to you online. It does kind of change up when they can actually see you. They can't really talk as much shit. But yeah, it's all interesting. So June 3rd, I started streaming, and then quickly after that, I was growing pretty fast. I streamed straight from my Xbox, and I had like a pretty big TV. I would sit on my bed until I got that chair, and I would just read chat from the screen. I started growing really quickly, so I wanted at least like another screen to read off of. So I used like a really old laptop, and it was very laggy and things like that. I mean, anybody watching this can definitely understand, you know, starting out and just using what you have. I remember putting my Xbox on like a Target tote and like a 40 or like 49 or like a really big TV on a Target tote. And then it was just very ratchet, you know when you take your phone and you just like set it against things and you like stack books on top of each other for like a better angle and stuff like that. It's basically that. Everybody starts that way. So quickly I started just growing like crazy, and I remember hitting 2K followers, and I was going on vacation. I remember like I was so sad to leave everybody, and it was just kind of crazy that like I had 2K followers and I was just like, I don't want to leave everybody, but I remember like keeping in contact with everyone, and we were just growing a community from the start. Shortly after I got back from vacation, I remember hitting like 3K, 4K. It was just nonstop. We were hitting goals. And that put me well over 2K, which is the new requirement for partners. So that had me thinking, do I apply? I'm seeing people get it right away when they hit 2K. But also I played a very popular game, which was Fortnite, which they wanted like more requirements for Fortnite. So I did apply for partner, and I got denied the first time, but I did stream from Xbox using Lightstream sometimes because the delay was really crazy. My voice was like very behind, and it was just not the move. I would say I'm a perfectionist, and I really just craved that like good quality stream. I just wanted to do the next thing, and I had a vision. I had an idea to put like my cat behind me, because I had like a tapestry with a cat on it, and it like kind of peeked behind my shoulder. Well, I had this vision to get a green screen and to have Simba's face peek behind my chair, and I had visions to have like my favorite colors on the stream and just all these things, but I was so limited. And so when I got denied, I told Jake, I was like, you know, this is what I love to do. He told me just to quit your job. Like, that's not what you love to do. This is what you love to do. Just do that, and we're gonna invest in a PC for you. We're gonna get the things you want. You know, obviously I didn't want to spend thousands of dollars on everything, but you know, get like a basic green screen, like a curtain green screen. Actually had to steam clean it like every Sunday so the wrinkles wouldn't be there. Like, I struggled. I had like a giant the giant like pole set up where it like took over all the room, and I just, you know, I started from the beginning. I slowly got things that I knew that could make my stream look better. And during those 30 days, I just worked on everything, made sure it looked great and how I would want people to see it when they first come to my stream. And I applied again, literally after 30 days, and I got accepted. So I became a mixer partner. I was so excited. It was October. It was my birth month. It was just like going so great. Everything was wonderful, hitting milestones. So when I got denied, I had 7K followers. When I got accepted 1 month later, I had 12K. So it was already growing like crazy. It was just so fun hitting milestones and getting to know people and making so many friends, meeting so many streamers. And I was so excited for my first event, which was in January, which is PAX South. So I ended up meeting my friend Raven from Hype Zone, which if you guys know Mixer, you know, like the famous Hype Zone. Hype Zone is now in your chat. Everybody's so nervous. You're like, when you get Hype Zone, you're so nervous. Everybody's in there either saying bot, or like, you got this, or, you know, whatever they want to say. But you have, you know, 700 to over 1,000 people just in there rooting for you or against you. And I met Raven in the chat there. Found out that we live in the same city, which is so crazy, and we ended up becoming friends. And she would come over, we would do different streams and like collab together, and you know, our communities love seeing us together. That was so cool. And we ended up flying to PAX South together, which is in San Antonio, and she has been like my convention buddy since. So we ended up going to PAX South, and I was a partner, and at the time she was not a partner, but we went together and we had such a good time. We met so many people. I ended up going to the partner party alone because, again, at the time she wasn't a partner yet, so I was kind of nervous. And you guys might know of her. Her name's Queen Eliminator. She actually invited me and another girl, Velocity, to which her name was Liddy Lexi at the time, to go to her Airbnb, and then we could all Uber to the place together, so that way we're not alone. And that to me just like was the beginning of showing me how nice and how genuine like the mixer community is. In high school, I could say that I had like a lot of guy friends over girlfriends, and I feel like, you know, you could either relate to this or you're kind of rolling your eyes at that. But you know, some girls are just like really rude and really hateful, and they don't want the best for you. But right away, like, I knew Queen was somebody that she was growing herself, but she wasn't like stuck up or anything like that. Like, she truly did want the best for you. And now thinking back, like, I mean, that's how I've been and how I've loved to treat other people too. If I see a new female streamer or male streamer, it doesn't matter, but it's really nice to be able to relate to somebody and be a female in streaming. And it's really nice to find other people that can relate to you and can encourage you, and vice versa. And just having that was very comforting to me. On Mixer, there were so many inspiring women that just wanted the best for you and wanted to see you grow and wanted to help push you and be a better you. So that was PAX South in January. I decided to skip PAX East because I believe it was like a month after, and that was just too soon for me. So from then on, I decided to grind. I believe that shortly after that, I got my G Fuel partnership, which is crazy because I just went to the booth at PAX South, and one of the people remembered me from there that was working the booth. He ended up messaging me on Twitter, which is very important to have social media because people will reach out to you in other places other than just your stream. Make sure you guys know that. And yeah, I remember in my PAX South video, I was talking about how I would love to work with G Fuel, and then weeks later, I literally partnered with G Fuel. So from then on, I just grinded. Like, I remember streaming 12-hour streams, 14-hour streams, like just streaming all the time. And it was so fun to me. It was just like, I loved hitting milestones. I loved meeting new people. It just like, my drive was there. I was just going. Shortly after that, I remember hitting 50K, and then everybody was telling me, Simby, you're gonna hit 100K by PAX West, which was in August. So just in October, I had hit 12K, and then not even a year later, they were saying, like, not even a year later, they were saying that I would hit 100K. I'm like, no way, like, that's insane. Well, fast forward to August, I hit 100K literally a week before I was flying out to PAX West, which I was so excited because at that time it had been months since I saw my friends last that I met at my first PAX, which is such a thrill. If you guys have ever been to PAX South, you know that it's the best one by far. It is a smaller convention, so it's just been very easy to get to know everybody there, and there's so much time to spend with everybody compared to the other conventions when it's just like a huge convention and there's so much to do at the convention itself, and there's so many people, so it's kind of harder to see everybody every second compared to PAX South. So I go to PAX West and I do a few really cool things. I remember streaming at the Elgato booth, and then I streamed at the Scuff booth, which at the Scuff booth, I got to try my very first Scuff, and I was so excited because they told me that I was going to be able to order my first Scuff. And rewind to back when I was 16 years old and I was living with my mom, and my parents were divorced, and there was no way in hell that back then I could afford a Scuff, which all my friends, I remember being in clans, they were telling me like, oh, you should get a Scuff, but they're, you know, to me they were so expensive. I lived on hot dogs and ramen noodles, like I was not getting a Scuff controller. And fast forward to August 2019, I'm literally streaming at the Scuff booth, trying a Scuff in my hand, and shortly after being able to look on the website and order my very own Scuff, fully customized. Like, what is happening right now? Like, I was living like my best life. So it's literally sitting in front of me. Like, this is the controller. It's my very first Scuff controller that I got. I got to fully customize it, and it's just my vibes. It's so comfy. The paddles are comfy. Everything about it's comfy. It's definitely well loved. You can see right here, but this has been a game changer for me. I have been a controller player from the beginning, so this has been my holy grail. So for my 1 year partnered in October, I did a 24-hour stream and we had a blast during that, and it was definitely a little bit hard to get through it, but just having everybody in chat, just pumped up, celebrating something that means so much to you was so fun. And every time you hit a milestone on Mixer, it was different. It was like everybody just truly so happy for you, and you're happy because you hit this milestone, like that was possible, and you're just excited to hit the next one. Like, it was just so fun to celebrate that in chat, spam it away, and doing these 24-hour streams or longer streams to celebrate something was so fun, and everybody just wanted to plan it and be there for you, and it was the best time. Fast forward to January of this year, I went to my second PAX South, which was a lot of my mods' first time going to PAX South, and this time was so much different. Me and Raven, we flew there together. Our mods stayed with us in a house, and it was just so much fun. Some of my mods, some of our friends, and this time was so different, and it kind of makes sense now. Maybe this was all like meant to be, and it just, I really wish that I knew in that moment like what would come of this year. It makes me super emotional thinking of it, but so many memories in that weekend that we were there. Like, I did my Lynx cosplay there, and just like being together, all together for the first time. There was like a shooting there on the Riverwalk. We weren't down in the Riverwalk, but we were in our Airbnb, but we were like so distraught from that. And there was just like so many things that happened, and generally like we had a wonderful time, but like in the midst of that, we were just thinking of the positive, and it's just so crazy to think back like what happened after that. But PAX South 2020 was my favorite convention. Like, a bunch of my mods were there. We got to do like mod pictures, and I was meeting some of my favorite streamers like Arcana, and so many more people were there, and it was just like the biggest family, and I will never ever forget PAX South 2020. So actually at PAX South, I was informed that I was signing with Asus ROG, and I was one of the first Mixer streamers to be on the Mixer team, the Mixer ROG team, which was like a huge deal. And I also found out that day at PAX South that I would be going to PAX East, which was only 1 month away. So during that month between South and East went by so fast, and it started becoming really, really big. And leading up to the days before PAX East, before I flew out, it was just all over the news. It was just everywhere. And like, they were saying, do not go anywhere, like don't go places with a lot of people. And I was going to PAX East, and just leading up to that day, I was so nervous and so scared. And also I was like, no, like I kind of didn't really let reality set in for me, and I didn't know how serious it was, and I just kind of didn't push it off. But I just hoped that, you know, I was thinking of the positive, right? Like Mixer is such a positive community. I was thinking, oh, we're going for the sponsorship, it's gonna be so good, we're making history, like everybody's gonna be there, our video is gonna be on the big screen, it's gonna be such a great time, and it's just gonna be like iconic. So we go, and it's such a good time, it's amazing. We're just like all celebrating together, everybody on the ROG team is vibing, like we all just, our personalities, no matter if we stream different things, if we're a musician, if we're a gamer, if we just talk to our stream, like we all have the same like passion. We love people and we love inspiring people, and we're all just getting along so well. I remember Mixer staff like coming up to us and just like congratulating us, and just like everybody was so proud to be like making history in this moment. And then I ended up getting sick on that trip. I had to miss the last 2 days. There were 4 days. I missed 2 days of the convention, and I was freaking out, and I was just so scared that I had, and I just didn't know what it was. This sickness felt different. I wasn't able to sleep on the first night I was sick, and I didn't want to go to the convention because I didn't know what it was. And I was just, I went to the hospital the day that I was gonna be heading home. I like just barely made my flight. I was running around. Thank goodness for Malibu helped me out. He drove me everywhere and drove me to the hospital, drove me to get my medication and all that good stuff. And then I make it home. I literally clean everything, throw away my luggage because it like fell apart completely, and I ended up just like literally cleaning everything that I ever touched, and just like low-key freaking out, high-key freaking out. It was just so crazy to me. And I ended up going to the doctor, and she told me that I had anxiety and depression, and which was true. Like I definitely had that, but I was just freaking out, like, okay, I think I've never felt this way before. Like, you know how your body feels. I've been sick before, but this is different. And of course I was dumb and I Googled it, so it freaked me out even more. But she didn't want to test me. She said if anybody has to fear this infection, then it was her, because she's older and I'm young and healthy. But I was sick for, I want to say like 2 months after that, and I had just so many effects from it, and I'm very thankful that I'm healthy and I feel a lot better. And actually just decided to stop taking my anxiety medication that I was placed on. I was placed on one medication and I didn't like it. It had bad effects, and I did another one, and I decided to stop taking it about a couple weeks ago. And then all of this happened, and I'm definitely hanging in there, but it was some news we didn't expect to happen. And it's just really humbling to see everybody come together after all of this that we did not expect to happen. And the reason why I wanted to tell you guys everything that's kind of happened in my career, you know, not completely detailed, but here and there, is just to show that so many things happen, and you need to live in the moment, and you need to inspire people, and you need to do your best, and you need to take risks, and you need to do things that, you know, you don't really want to do because you don't know if there's going to be those chances again. And I will never regret anything I've ever done with Mixer. Mixer was my first chance. They've took so many risks with me. They decided to send me out to California December 2019, so the end of last year, to go do my first ever Xbox session. I've never done anything like that. I've never done anything with cameras pointing at me, with people behind them, with production, with all that stuff. And not to mention with two huge names, Mark Hamill and Ninja. And the fact that they gave me that chance was so incredible for me. I will never forget that. I was not able to tell my community until the next day after it was published. And I couldn't tell them that I was literally on my way across the country to play Fortnite with these big names. Like, Fortnite has been my main game for a year and a half at that point, and it was just so crazy what was like happening, and I just really couldn't believe it. I had so much anxiety leading up to then that I actually tried to talk myself out of going, which I'm so thankful for everybody, my mods, my friends, a couple people that I told about it before then, because I needed to like reassure myself. I was trying to talk myself out of it, and that was so dumb. I'm so glad that I ended up going because it was the best time, and I will never regret anything I did or how I did it. I'm not the most I'm very talkative and, bubbly, I would say, but obviously that's very intimidating to be in a room with not only Mark Hamill Ninja and Jess, Ninja's wife, who's so amazing, and we've become friends from that experience, and I'm so grateful for that, but a room full of people, like tons of people, and I'm just proud of myself for going out of my comfort zone, for getting on a plane and going by myself, and just some days I don't want to get out of bed, and I'm proud of myself for overcoming those days, and I'm proud of you for overcoming those days. I just want to put this out there and let you guys know, right now especially is such a difficult time for all of us, but we will come together as a community. So now that I told you a bit of my story, I want to get into what happened to Mixer, where am I going, and what's next for my journey.